Let's turn back the clock to a grey, flickering evening in London, November 1st, 1396. Imagine stepping inside St. Paul's Cathedral, its cavernous halls aglow with hundreds of candles that scatter gold and amber across the ancient stone. Music rises from the grand organ, echoing through the Gothic arches as a regal procession weaves down the aisle. But this isn't any ordinary royal event. Waiting at the altar is King Richard II of England, a man of 29, his fate and the future of two nations about to be sealed with the vows of a child bride. How does someone so young become the linchpin of Europe's brutal Game of Thrones? To answer that, we have to cross the channel and rewind to late 14th century France, a kingdom ravaged by war and ruled by a court where madness and ruthless ambition go hand in hand. Isabel entered this complicated world on November 9th, 1389, in the opulent rooms of the Louvre Palace. Her father, King Charles VI, was already notorious as Charles the Mad, his mind unraveling in spells of terrifying delirium. He sometimes thought himself made of glass, or failed to recognize his own children, bolting through palace corridors from ghosts only he could see. With the king lost in madness, France fractured, racked with civil war and ruled by power-hungry regents fighting for control. And at the center of that struggle stood Isabeau of Bavaria, Isabel's mother. Isabeau saw opportunity in the chaos. Chroniclers called her grasping and scandalous, more interested in her own gain than the children at her skirts. For Isabeau, her daughters weren't loved. They were advantages to be married off for alliances. So it's no wonder Isabel's childhood was shaped by politics, betrayal, and fear. This was a France torn by the 100 Years' War, with jittery alliances with England and noble factions at each other's throats. To witness her father's unraveling and her mother's chilly calculations was to grow up far too fast. Then opportunity knocked, one that would change Isabel's life forever. In 1396, King Richard II, still haunted by loss after his first wife, Anne of Bohemia, reached out to the French, hoping for peace and a desperately needed boost to his legitimacy. Richard proposed marriage to little Isabel. The French, led by the Duke of Berry, smelled a way to cash in on peace, a vast dowry of £800,000 and a 28-year ceasefire. In their eyes, a child's happiness was a fair price to pay for breathing space and gold. Negotiations took months, and they were as cold and impersonal as a marketplace deal. English counselors balked at Isabel's age, arguing she should at least turn 12. But Richard's kingdom was crumbling, and he feared losing his hold on the throne. In the end, urgency won out. In October 1396, the terms were inked. Isabel would be shipped across the choppy channel, handed over as a political offering. The farewell at the Louvre was a spectacle crafted for propaganda. In a rare moment of clarity, Charles VI blessed his daughter, tears streaking his cheeks, while Isabeau handled the arrangement as she would any other transaction, cold, calculated, and efficient. For little Isabel, the adventure had no sting yet. She packed up her toys, her favorite dolls, and her beloved dog, the comforts of home, for a journey she could scarcely comprehend. The voyage from Calais to London took weeks, a marathon of pageantry that would exhaust even seasoned travelers. Each city tried to dazzle the future queen, But Isabel, awash in unfamiliar faces and relentless ceremonies, shed more tears than smiles. Homesickness shadowed her every step. London pulled out all the stops for the wedding. St. Paul's Cathedral dazzled with silks, tapestries, and candlelight, while choirs sang for hours in multiple languages. The union wasn't just celebrated, it was flaunted across Europe as proof that England and France could find peace through diplomacy. Even King Richard couldn't conceal his discomfort. Nearly 30 and famed for his taste in the arts, Richard had little in common with his child bride, and by all accounts, treated her with respect. He became more a guardian than a husband, setting Isabel up with French tutors, palatial rooms, and the kind of gentle care she'd known back home. But the calm couldn't last. In 1399, just 3 years later, Richard was toppled in a coup and later killed. 10-year-old Isabel was a widow before she'd even learned what marriage meant. Now the new king, Henry IV, saw value in her as a diplomatic asset. She was kept under a velvet lock and key in Havering Castle, comfortable but a prisoner all the same. Letters to her family reveal her loneliness. "I write to you in tears, for I am kept here like a prisoner, far from all I love." Eventually, Charles VI, between his spells of madness, demanded his daughter's return. After tense negotiations, Isabel was freed in 1401. But the little princess who came back was changed. Now 12, more world-weary than most adults, and seen by her family as a cumbersome reminder of dashed ambitions. Did things finally get better? For a moment, yes. At 16, Isabel was betrothed once more, this time to Charles of Orleans, a poet prince who cherished her. Here, at long last, she found a marriage filled with kindness and mutual respect. The couple shared a love for poetry and beauty, carving out a rare happiness in their turbulent world. But happiness proved fragile. Charles was soon captured in battle at Agincourt and spent the next 25 years languishing as an English prisoner. Isabel was, in effect, once again a widow, left behind at court to endure more years of loneliness. Motherhood brought her a touch of solace, a daughter, Joan, born in 1409. Yet even this joy was tinged with sorrow. Isabel knew her own child would likely be caught in the same political snare. Isabel of France died that same year, just 20 years old, lost to complications after childbirth. Her story, echoing quietly through the centuries, is a sobering reminder of what it meant to be a royal daughter in medieval Europe, bartered, sacrificed, and ultimately forgotten by many. The grand wedding that marked her entrance to the world stage was never matched by a happy ending. Her life raises hard questions about the price of peace and about the girls who paid with their youth, their choices, and their very lives. 6 centuries on, her fate reminds us how easy it was for a child's voice to be drowned out by politics, how the innocent were so often traded for the ambitions of adults. If you're still with us, think about what you'd do if your childhood, your future, and your happiness could all be traded with the stroke of a pen. History is full of stories like Isabel's, some celebrated, some nearly lost. If you found her journey as moving as we did, make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the next unbelievable true story from the past. There's so much more history hidden beneath the surface. Stick around because you won't want to miss what's coming up next.